So every year there are only 40 bear attacks. 40. I said 40 and I held up 5 years.
40 bear attacks.
This times 8.
But of course, it was who says, but it's not all men. And I think about it all the time because I'm like, woo! I like when Gigi does that. Hello. Welcome to episode 9 of the Talk About Traumatized podcast.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today. I'm losing track. Before I logged on, I literally went to our YouTube page to see how many episodes we've had. And that was the first time I've had to do that. I've been doing good counting. But I'm kind of excited because if we record an episode this weekend, that'll be our first double-digit episode.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. It also feels like we've done way more episodes than that. I think it's probably because we meet more often than we record. Mm-hmm. So like my brain is tracking it incorrectly, but
viewer discretion advised. In the following episode we may touch on triggering topics such as sexual assault, domestic violence, eating disorders, suicide ideation, and more. If you are not comfortable hearing these topics, we strongly encourage you to close out of this podcast and get help from the resources listed in the description. This podcast is a safe space for everyone. While we touch on triggering topics, we do so to encourage healing and make others feel seen, heard, and understood. So, if you want to get real about the trials and tribulations of life, stay tuned.
Yeah, episode 9. 9 means endings, and with endings mean new beginnings. So take with that what you will. Last night we were playing Monopoly on the Xbox, and I was making my dad so mad because I would not trade this specific card unless like he gave me a card and $77 with it, and he was like, I don't want to give you 77, and he was like literally trying any other number. He was like 72, 73, and I was like, I will not budge. I want 77 because 77 means I'm lucky.
Yes,
I like being lucky. We ended up not trading for 77 because he ended up getting so poor that I traded for $44. But it was fine because I ended up getting a different Monopoly from my sister, so it was okay. At that point, it was fine, and I traded that Monopoly for $77. So, I mean, there was more to it than just the money. Yeah. But on the money front, I was literally like, this is what I want. And yeah, it was just really funny. I don't know. We've been playing a lot of board games because that's what my dad does. Yeah. Well, not even, they're like video game games. But this one's kind of cool. Like the Monopoly, there's like this live version. So it's like, versus like there's a version where you can just play on the board, but now it feels so freaking boring in comparison. Monopoly is kind of like my favorite game. I think I love the Go game. I love the board game. I'm so competitive. I love to win.
I was never a big Monopoly player.
I have always been. It was banned in our house because me and my brother would go to war about Monopoly, which is kind of realistic. But it was originally called the Landlord's Game. Before it was called Monopoly, the person who created the game, it was called the Landlord's Game.
I mean, that makes sense.
It does make sense. I just thought it was a fun fact. I learned that in my economy class this semester.
Did you? Yeah, we were never a huge Monopoly family. We played more card games than board games. So we were a lot of like spades, and we played some euchre.
Did you play Rummy?
Rummy, yes.
We have been on a Rummy kick since I was pregnant. That was like the board game.
So we used to play regular Rummy and then Jailhouse Rummy.
I don't think I've ever played that version.
It's just got some slightly different rules. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been forever since we played. But
I want to get a game going with Mason and Marsha when I'm there.
Spoons, though. Spoons.
Oh, Spoons is the game to play.
Yes.
If you have a large group of you, it's so much fun.
It's like musical chairs with cards and spoons, basically. Yes. Yeah. It's fun. If you're competitive, actually, no, scratch that. If you're competitive, you will enjoy this game. If you're not competitive, maybe don't play with a bunch of very competitive people.
I know. It's I had my Spanish teacher, she refused to play games with us like the whole time we were like on our trip in Costa Rica, even in the classroom. But it was because she was so competitive that she knew she could not control herself no matter who she was playing, which is literally me. Like, I'm gonna be playing chance one day and I'm not gonna give a fuck. Eat that shit, 5-year-old. That's how you raise them tough.
Ain't no letting you in this house.
Exactly, because when you really win, it's gonna feel so fucking good. It's gonna feel so fucking good, and you fucking earn that shit. I don't give fake wins. Like, oh my god. Whenever we first moved here and I was pregnant, so like my dad is a board game house, so we play board games almost every freaking night. And Josh is the baby child of his family. I am not the baby child of the family. We would play, and he would say, "Can I get an extra turn?" For what? My grandma used to give me an extra turn. I've never wanted to hit a person so fucking bad.
There was none of that in my house.
He would try to cheat all the time, but like not good cheating. Like literally just like really bad. Like picking up extra cards, like we're not paying attention.
You know what is horrible at cheating? And he's not horrible at cheating. He's actually very good at cheating, but he's horrible about cheating in any kind of game that you play is Mason.
He seems like the type. I had a feeling you were
his motto when you're playing a game is if you're not cheating, you ain't trying. And I'm like, that's not no.
Oh, that would have me so pressed. That's one of the reasons me and Nathan used to fight so hard, because he would always cheat. And I would always catch him cheating. Oh, there was one time, I think this is the game where Monopoly got banned at our house, but he kept trying to make a deal with my sister. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, don't fucking do it. Don't do it. That's horrible for you. Don't do it. And he got so mad he flipped the whole fucking board over and he ran away and he didn't leave his room the whole fucking night. But it was a horrible deal, because that's the thing about Nathan, is he'll put so much pressure on you, which is probably why I have such a freaking like backbone, because I'm not going to succumb to other people's pressure, because like since the day I was born I had an older sibling trying to push me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know how we got here. We played Monopoly last night and it was whatever. How are you doing, Tiff?
I'm doing okay. You know, there's not really much new going on. There's a bunch of things that I've attempted to start and just haven't had the motivation really to do. But, you know, I feel better today. Also, I've been reading this book. Did you ever read the Aragon series?
I didn't.
Oh my god, you should read those.
I think I would like them. They were always on my to be read list.
Yeah, I started it. So sometimes I'm really bad about not reading certain like series or whatever until like the movie comes out, because I'd never even heard of Aragon until the movie came out like way long ago. I think I was in high school or maybe just out of high school.
Know there was a movie.
It's awful. Okay, it's horrible. Especially, I didn't think it was that bad, but once I saw the movie, I was like, "Oh, I should read these books." And I read the book, and I was like, "That movie was awful. It was awful."
That's how it goes. Percy Jackson.
But anyway, like a couple months ago, Mason was like, "We should start a book club." Me, him, and Marsha. And the first book series that we read was Aragon. Yeah, except Marsha is the kind of reader that she'll put a book down and not come back to it for like weeks, and I can't do that. Like if something's happening in the book that's like triggering her anxiety, she'll like put the book down and not come back to it. And I'm like, oh, how could you do that? Because once I start a book, I'm like, I gotta finish it. So Mason and I have finished all of the Aragon series, and Marsha's still on the first book. Which is fine. I read like 3 other series between them, but they just came out with another one called Murtaugh, which is like a second. It's a spinoff, like one of the main characters in the original series. which I love because I loved the character in the book and I wasn't happy with what happened. But anyway, I started reading it and I'm almost done with that and I was really excited and I wanted to finish reading it this morning, but I couldn't because I had to come in here and we had to film it. I was very sad.
So sorry.
So that's what I have to
we
do.
have the time after?
Right. That's why I'm like,
okay.
do this after. Because I only have like 100 pages and
I need to read more. I was on it for a while. Like, I feel like towards the end of last semester and the beginning of this semester, I was really on it. And then this semester just hit me like a fuck ton of bricks, just through and through. I think since February, I feel like every week it's just been another fucking low punch, like where I'm not expecting it. But I want to read so bad. I need to read so bad. I'm in a funky thing with like Libby right now because, okay, this is some actual bullshit. The way, like, so we live in Springfield, which there's a huge public library in Springfield. Tell me fucking why. Like, some sort of district person, whatever, for our literal cul-de-sac decided that we don't want to pay towards the public library. So none of us can get a library card unless we spend $170 or something like that per person, which is just fucking ridiculous. Because if I pay all my fucking taxes and I pay all my fucking shit, that should be allocated towards the public library. Public libraries are so fucking important. I'm so mad about it. And so obviously through the school I get the library card. But that library is so small. It does not have the selection I want. Specifically, I'm talking about on Libby because that is my only way of reading books currently. Although now I probably do have a bit more time for it just because we're splitting time with Chance and stuff like that. But I've been trying to paint my room for 3 weeks, which hopefully will get done today. I'm actually super, super excited. The walls are completely primed, and I just need to put up my coat of green. I am stoked. I'm literally so fucking excited. I've been planning out how I want to do the room in my head. I'm hoping I have enough space to like create like a little play corner for Chance. It's really okay if not because there's a whole playroom downstairs. But also it's really nice in the mornings whenever he wakes up at the butt crack of dawn. And I can just pull him out of his crib and let him play in the room for a little bit because it's like picked up and it's safe. Compared to like I can't let him out of the room and fall back asleep because that's not safe. So I just think that would be nice. But yeah, I'm just really pressed about the library card thing. So the only selection of books I have is through my school, and my school just does not have as big of a selection as I would like. My mom let me use her Libby account, but my mom has something going on where she's messed up. Her PIN is incorrect, so she can't even get books on her device. And I keep bugging her to call, but she won't. And I don't want to keep bugging her to call. She's like, just use my credits on audiobooks. But I don't think my mom understands that I will go through that book so fast and I don't want to continue to use your credits. But I could just get into the Libby account and rent the book. Also with my school, there's like a thing set up with the public library here in town. So I'm actually able to check out books from the public library, but I cannot get a Libby account with it. Isn't that so just like cluster, just freaking, it's like every roadblock in my way to like not let me get my Libby account. But I just need to sign back into the school one and be content with the selection that I have is essentially my options at this current point in time. I really do want to read more. Yesterday, did I talk to you about this already? Summer classes? Okay, I couldn't remember. I talked to my mom about it, and then I couldn't remember if I talked to you. I don't know what the fuck happened to me yesterday. I don't know what the crap got over me, but I decided to take summer classes. Because I feel like I'm so close to finishing school. And first of all, the classes I'd be taking, none of them are math classes. None. I was looking over all of my requirements, and I'm gonna fucking come back to this clip and clip it if I'm ever in another fucking math class again against my freaking will. But I'm like, I think I'm done. Like, I think I'm officially done after the semester. Despite being super depressy and everything like that, this last week, I'm completely caught up on all my economic homework. I have it all done for this whole week already. I need to start my book report, which is also I need to get into Libby so I can listen to the book I need to.
Yeah.
But I also, like, I was just looking over grades, and even if I, like, fail the final the same way I failed the midterm, I will still pass the class. And I don't plan on doing that. I plan on studying my butt off. I have a better comprehension of what the final is going to look like because of the midterm. But because I've done so well on, like, the work throughout the rest of the class, and because my teacher really did help me that 1 week where I wasn't able to get the work done, and he opened it back up for me. Thank you, Professor, again. I should pass the class no matter what. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. Now, I really want to do well on the final because the higher the grade I get, the higher my GPA is. And that's always going to be better for me in the end. My nonprofit class, I just have a paper to write for. I'm almost caught up in all of my, like, internship crap. I spent yesterday at work getting all of my journaling caught up on. Up to this week. I have one more sheet, like, from the midterm progress report that I need to do, but that got all funky because I couldn't get in touch with the teacher for a while. Essentially, I just feel like I'm actually, despite it all, and despite how I felt even, like, 2 to 3 weeks ago, I'm like, okay, I'm actually pretty caught up, and I have 2 weeks left, and I think as long as I keep just chipping away at it every single day, it shouldn't be so overwhelming to me. Like, come the end, like, right, I want to get this book report done. I want to get the paper done because then I can just hone in on that final. And that is what I need to focus on. But I was just like, yesterday, I don't know what came over me. I decided to, like, look at what they were offering for summer classes. And I have, like, my sheet from my advisor that has it all laid out of all the classes I need to take in order to get my degree and stuff like that. And so I start, like, putting in the options to see what they're offering. And none of my public administration classes they're offering this summer. So I was like, kind of bummer, but I think those are, like, definitely the harder classes that I'm going to be taking from this point out. But they're offering 3 of my women and gender study minor classes.
Nice.
And one of them is the intro class. The other one is LGBTQ people in U.S. history. And then the third one is family law. And it was my boss who actually pointed out to me. She was like, you know, if you really want to create this rehabilitation center one day, that's probably actually going to be a really important thing you're going to need to have at least some foundational knowledge on. And I was like, you're right. So I don't know how hard a law class is going to be. But also I had an issue this morning because I was able to get signed up for 2 of the classes. Because I did sign myself up, because I'm trying to do 12 credit hours. It actually might have been 14 credit hours. If I can get into all 4 classes that I was trying to sign up for, 2 of them were 4 credit hours and 2 of them were 3 credit hour classes. But I really think if I take summer classes and then I just take 5 classes in the fall, and I take 5 classes in the spring, I will graduate at the end of next spring. I might have to take another summer class, but I think they make exceptions. Like, if you're, like, within, like, 5 credit hours of graduating, they'll let you walk the stage as long as you're signed up or registered to take those classes or something. I could potentially also take an interim class, which happens over winter break, but that's like taking all full semesters worth of class in 3 weeks. It's very, very rigorous and demanding, and I don't even know if they'd offer any of the classes I need at this point. But I have my meeting with my advisor today. This was all me just getting a fucking gumption yesterday and deciding to look at stuff. And then I realized 2 of the 3 classes for the women and gender studies were almost full. Like, they were at like 18 to 20 seats or 19 to 20 seats. So I was like, put me on.
Right.
I reached out to the FAFSA office because they have summer FAFSA, but you can't see that information, right? It's not available anywhere to see. And so I'm like, hey, I'm just reaching out to see if I can apply for summer FAFSA. And they were like, you don't apply, you just register for classes. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know what my budget is. And they were like, just register for the classes. So I'm like, okay. I don't know if they're fucking covered. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have to drop them, because if they're not covered, I'm not taking them. I don't have thousands of dollars to spew out on classes currently. So that would suck. But something about it, I don't know what it is, because I've literally been for months and months, I'm like, oh my God, I just want it to be summer. I just want to break. And then literally yesterday I was like, I really just want to take these classes.
Just get them over with.
And also, because I'm moving up to full-time in the Women's Center over the summer, but I also know the summer is like the slowest time of year for us. Like, we're doing a lot of prep work for the school year and stuff like that. It's not at all like we're not doing work, but I do think, because now that I'm getting into a better flow of like what's expected to me and when I do have downtime and stuff like that, realizing I of course want more money and I want more whatever, but for being a student and in school, I have a really good gig set up. Like a really, really, because I work for the university as a student, whenever there's downtime, they're like, do your schoolwork.
Right.
Like, that's what they need me to do. And if I were to get a job anywhere outside of the school, I've had lots of jobs before and I've worked while being a student, I would not get that same grace whatsoever. So I really think I just need to start taking advantage of it instead of like looking for more and more and more, and just knowing that will come. But also, the sooner I do get my degree, the sooner I will have more time opened up to work other places and stuff like that. So I really just want to hone in on the school year, really drive my focus in, because I don't know, every day I just think about graduating. I think about the fact that I will graduate and I'll be the first person to graduate in my family, and the way Chance won't have to, like, he will have a step up already by having a parent who's been through the system, who's done it before. And I don't even feel like Chance has to go to school. I am not one of those parents who's like, you have to go to school or else I'm kicking you out, which is what happened to me. And then my parents couldn't pay for me to go to school. Love you both. I'm just saying, not a fully thought out plan. Yeah. No. You put a lot of pressure on a person and then like you didn't come through. But that goes back to the like them not having gone through the process the same way. That is the reason why at schools there's so many like programs set up for first gen college students, because they are struggling more than parents who are well involved and well aware of the processes. And I think a lot of that failure went on my high school too, if you want the honest truth. They just wanted high test scores because that got them more funding. So they literally did not care about economic status. I look back a lot because during my senior year when I was applying to schools, my counselor would not send out my transcripts to the schools I was applying for. And I literally could not understand. I was losing my mind. We had to have a sit down session with my superintendent about it because I could not comprehend how I was emailing her the schools I was applying to and how the only step that wasn't coming through was the fact that my transcripts were not getting sent over by the counseling center. Not that that was right, not that that was fair, but I literally think it's because she knew there was not a world in which I was ever going to be able to go to these schools. But no one told me that. And my mom just had no idea, so she thought I was being targeted for whatever reason. It still was rude and it wasn't fair and it was a whole shitload of things, but I look back and I really think it's because she knew it was a waste of her time. It was literally
but like even if that was the thought process behind it, to sit down and have a conversation probably would have been like the best course of action. Like to maybe have a meeting with you and your parents and been like, this is are these feasible? Like, are we?
That would have been a better option.
Yeah. Instead of just
I agree.
This is a waste of my time.
Yes. Giving me better direction because clearly that's what I needed. But also, I don't know if I would just wasn't listening. Like, I look back and I don't feel like anyone was telling me these things. My mom swears that she was telling me these things, but my mom's memory is worse than mine, and I swear to God, I have no recollection of it whatsoever. We did not even understand in-state versus out-of-state financing. When I say we had zero knowledge, and yeah, I mean, it was just a clusterfuck of things. I'm actually grateful that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, only because I'd be sitting with so much student debt that now that I have a way better comprehension of money and finances, that sounds disgusting to have to deal with. But I also, I guess these are like my intrusive thoughts a lot, but just like if I had gone to school, like would I have gone through all the things I went through by not being in school when I should have been in school? I mean, the thoughts sit with me every day. They never leave my head. Because like I literally sit there and I'm like, I shouldn't have ever even been there. Like I shouldn't have ever been in that position. I shouldn't have ever been so young in that position, but I was a hard worker and I was see, like they just get to me. They really get to me sometimes, and I'm like, these thoughts serve me no purpose. Like literally sitting here thinking them serve me no purpose, but I guess it's also just like the human condition to think like, what if things had gone the way I wanted them to?
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't be so fucked up.
Right? No, I think about that a lot too. Like, where would I be if I would have made this decision? Or this hadn't happened. What would my life be like? You never know.
I don't know how to, this has been, Tiff and I know we were talking about this, but like just the whole, I just want to get out of my head, which has been my goal from the fucking jump of the year. I haven't necessarily done it yet. I'm so frustrated with myself because I deleted social media, but then I constantly find myself now getting on Google and going to them. Not as much. I will say there's been a big having to go the extra mile to do it does like, right? I don't just log into my phone and instantly open a social media. But whenever I do sit down and I am bored, instead of sitting with that boredness, I still do it.
Yep.
So maybe I'll be reaching out to you to change my passwords. Because really it is at the point where it's just like log me out. Like log me the F out. I really don't want to be this connected, because the thing is I'm not connecting with people, I'm just connecting with the internet. And I'm just seeing an overflow of bad things on top of just life.
Well, even me, I was scrolling through Facebook the other day and I was like, I don't even see, like, the whole point of the app is to connect people, right? Like, that was the whole point. Like, that's the whole point of social media, is to connect with people, other people, family, friends that don't live near you or whatever. But I was scrolling through my timeline the other day and I was like, I don't even see posts from friends anymore. Like, there's so many, like, between ads and all the spam that you get and the freaking, like, they are always suggesting groups and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I have not seen a post from a friend without having to search for it for a while. And it's just so overwhelming, and it's totally gone beyond what it was intended for in the beginning. So I kind of feel like it is about that time to start, distancing myself from it. I've been talking about it for like months.
Me and you both, sister.
But it's like I get on there and I doom scroll. I haven't been on TikTok in a while, and I haven't been on Twitter or X in a while, other than to like click on it to get the notifications off my screen. So now it's literally just Facebook and Facebook Reels that have a chokehold on me. But
Twitter's the one. I love my astrology accounts. You know this. You literally know this.
Yes, I know this.
I love them. They make me feel some type of way. I don't know.
Do you remember the time that you got locked out of your Twitter?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is how, so I have a bunch of astrology accounts that I am now following on Twitter, and I did not follow a single one of them. Because you got locked out of your Twitter. And you went and followed all of the people that you follow so you could get into my Twitter.
I was like, can I please just log into your account so I can see them?
That's peak social media addiction right there.
It is. I literally couldn't not go without it. I'm not nearly as bad as I was at the time. Like, at the time, I was, like, religiously, like, it was a Sunday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember that it was a Sunday because Sundays were the astrology day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not as bad about it at all, actually, but I just look forward to it. I don't know. They're one of the few things that always make me feel optimistic about the week, even if nothing ever exciting happens. I don't know.
It's one of those things where it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's just that we have I forget, why does this happen to me? I start a sentence and I know where it's going in my head and then it just leaves my fucking head. But it's just so easy to get addicted to them. And especially when you're depressed and when you're anxious and stuff like that, and you need that dopamine hit that you get from, you know, social media notifications or whatever. That is what is addicting. It's not the, you know, actually scrolling and actually doing all of this stuff. Like the doom scrolling is like dissociating, whatever, but the dopamine comes in when you get like that like on your post or that share on your post or somebody responds to you. And as somebody who has depression, that gives you that needed dopamine hit. And so it's hard to stop because you don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, literally. And that's also like one of the things I was reading is that like you have to like recenter your like or re-level it or something. Like that's one of the good parts about like taking a break is it's gonna suck for a while because you're not getting that dopamine hit, but it's also because you need to recenter that dopamine hit. Like because the reason going outside doesn't make you feel good is because your brain is only craving one thing and you gotta make it not crave just that one thing. Yeah, so I've been doing good. Yesterday my coworker asked me about like this thing going on online because me and her love to talk about pop culture things, and I had no idea because I haven't been on social media like that for a hot couple days. But that's how fast things online like come.
Is it the look at the keyboard thing?
No, I've seen those things a couple times, but I'm just like, please stop. It was about Quavo and Chris Brown having beef.
Oh.
Yeah. Two not so great men beefing. Yeah. So, whatever. That's on them. F them, in my honest opinion. They're not people I care for that much. No.
Thank you, next.
Yeah, thank you, next.
So, speaking of social media things, so we were talking about it before we started recording. So, you've seen the whole, you know, question that was posed to women on the internet where would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or a man?
Yes.
I mean,
choosing the bear.
Yeah, every time. Hands down. Every time. And it's so funny to see all of these men, and there are some women too, but mostly men who are on TikTok and Facebook and all of that are like, what do you mean you choose a bear over a man? What do you mean? And they're like, you know, bear will kill you, blah, blah, bear will maul you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so will a man. But also, like, so you know me, and you know, I love statistics and I love information. And I was like, well, I just wonder what the statistical likelihood is of being attacked by a bear in the woods versus getting attacked by a man, right? Mm-hmm. And I really thought I kind of thought it would be close. Like, maybe not close, but like
not so far apart.
Not so far apart. Okay, listen. These are statistics that I got from the World Animal Foundation, right? So every year there are only 40 bear attacks. 40. I said 40 and I held up 5 years.
40 bear attacks.
Times 8. Okay.
There we go.
there are only 40 attacks on humans by bears every year. 40. Okay. And a majority of those were because the bears felt threatened, like most animals. Most animal attacks are because the animal feels threatened or they're protecting their young. Like most animals don't go out of their way to hurt and hunt humans, right? And then so like your chances of being attacked by a bear in reality are 1 in 2.1 million chances being attacked by a bear. Versus the statistics on sexual assault, right? 1,270 people a day are sexually a day. That's not a year. That's a day. Are sexually assaulted. And while women can be sexual abusers and are sexual abusers, a majority of those people are men who are attacking women. And it works out to being like every 68 seconds in the US somebody is sexually assaulted versus 40 a year. And there have only been 100.
I can't believe you're choosing the bear.
Why would you choose a bear? Because a bear's not gonna rape me. Okay.
Exactly. I first of all would rather die by bear attack than be raped again.
Thank you.
I would literally rather die. Thank you. Actually,
there have only been 180, fatal bear attacks since 1784.
I'm choosing the bear.
Choosing the bear. Every single time. And when some guy comes at you and is like, why would you choose the bear? Tell him that. 40 attacks on humans every year versus 1,270 a day. In the US.
So men and women who are not able to comprehend why any person would say they'd choose the bear, pay attention. Like literally just pay attention. At this point, I don't even have anything else to say except like actually like, right, Tiffany, what are the numbers? 40 a year
40 a year
attacks versus 1,200 sexual assaults a day. And no one is crazy for saying the bear.
Not at all.
You just don't recognize the actual danger women are in every single day. And yes, we are not acknowledging the fact that women are also abusers as well. But as Tiff said before, the majority of people who assault and attack are men.
And that's not even including, that's just sexual assault. Not just as in it's not a big deal, but that is only sexual assault. That's not even taking into account the women that are murdered by men that have nothing to do with sexual assault.
That number is still probably higher than 40 a year.
Actually,
I know that number is higher than 40 a year.
Most definitely. Because if you're in the woods, you're in the woods with a bear. For the most part. Yeah. Right? And the bear is just going to go and do what bears do until it feels threatened. Right? If you know what you're doing, if you're just trying, if you're
supposed to stand still,
you're not gonna fucking and I think it's black bears, brown bears. One of them are super skittish. I think it's black bears. And literally all you have to do is make a loud noise and they fucking run away. Versus a man who is going to hypothetically actually hunt you. He is going into the woods. And obviously it's not every single man, but a majority. I know, as soon as those words
not all men.
As soon as the
if
words
it's not you, who is it then? All the good men in my life fit on one hand, and for all you being quiet, I wish you'd take a stand, because it's not all men, but it is all women. Since 1998, it's been about 18 women, and that's just rape, not catcalling or hands that explore or whatever, okay? You get my fucking point. I really want to do that TikTok sound so bad. I'm really close to having it all memorized.
Yeah. We can work on it when you're down here.
That would be a fun one to do together. I did have it all memorized, but it's been like at least 6 weeks since I like listened to it again. Because there was one day I was going to do it and then I I got scared.
But anyway, so back to the topic. It's like, it's obviously coming from a place of privilege that men have to say, you shouldn't be afraid of men in the woods. You should be more afraid of the bear. Because that just tells me, I mean, it's what we all know, right? You don't have to worry about walking down the road when it's dark or in daylight, because it doesn't just happen at night. You don't have to be worried about walking alone. You don't have to think about holding your keys in between your fucking knuckles when you're walking through a parking garage.
Sitting in your car, parked.
Yeah.
I'm always scared. I don't know why, but if I'm sitting in a parked car, even if it's locked, I'm scared. Because
they tell you, as a woman, you're supposed to not dawdle. You're supposed to get in your car, lock the door, start your car, drive away. They don't drill that into men's heads. It's a thing that they drill into women's heads, because women are at greater risk because men.
I'm sorry. I literally there's one day, and I want you to know, I think back, right? Me reminiscing on the past way too fucking much. I don't even remember exactly what I was talking about. I don't remember exactly what I was talking about. But of course, it was who says, but it's not all men. And I think about it all the time because I'm like, if you wish you could just like, right? I feel actually very, very confident in the person I am today would not, right? When I see and hear things, it actually very much makes me see people differently. Versus at the time, I brushed it off as like character flaws.
Yeah.
I think it's just I take people for who they tell me they are. Mm-hmm. Versus like in the past, I took people for what I wanted them to be, I think.
That is the biggest lesson that I had to learn in my life.
Yeah, like most definitely.
So going back to the argument of not all men, like, no, it's not all men, right? But it's enough men.
And it's enough men, not, I went on this tangent, I know a couple episodes ago. But if more people, specifically men, instead of trying to say not all men, kindly turn to the men that it is and actually said something to them instead, the difference that would fucking make. I will die on this hill. This is not a woman's problem. Nope. Women can't change the problem, but I think men can. I think men can make a difference. I think the men who consider themselves good men and have to say not all men anytime something gets brought up about men should be the ones who are doing more to actually stop bad men, because it's not women's fault for having this perception of men. No. Everything I went through in my life has told me actually I have a very good radar and a very good perception, and I don't want to change it. I'm not upset about the fact that if I'm in a room with a man, I view him as a threat more than I view him as an ally 90% of the times, until they prove otherwise. Yep. Until that they show me that they're not. Like my boss at work, my boss's boss, I think he is a good man. I think he is a really, really good man. Did I think that from the beginning? No. Like I literally didn't. But it was through getting to know this person. And he's not the kind of man who's gonna say not all men. Like any man who's saying not all men belong in the category.
That's what I was gonna say. Like these men who are saying not all men, if you would turn around and say something, but they're not going to.
No, because they're cowards.
They're not going to, because the good men are the men who recognize the problem, and they are the men who are going to call out other men for, you know, the behavior that upholds rape culture, you know.
Yeah.
So it's I would not label the men who say not all men as good men. I mean, do they have
you go in the box?
Do they have the potential to be a good man? People can change. Will they?
Probably not.
I'm just pessimistic enough to say probably not. Not unless something major happens.
I don't know if that's pessimistic enough, though. I don't know. I look back, right? I think it was like the first episode. Gigi was like, every time you share your story, like you, especially like when you share it in front of new people or like just whatever, you recognize certain details as like really bad. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things since starting in the Women's Center that I realized was so bad that for the longest time I just did not consider bad was my boss, my old boss. How much shit he was actually responsible for and how much shit he could have actually prevented from happening, and how many times as a boss of women he failed and failed and failed. And it's one of those things that for the longest time I think I held a lot of grace for him, and I still somewhat do. I don't. It's a very weird thing. I don't think he's an awful person. I think he was a very shitty man who would have said not all men. And I would be very, very interested in having a conversation with him today to know, like, mm-hmm. Because I do think that what happened to me impacted him to some degree. I really, truly do. But do I know what kind of person he is today? Do I know what he's doing to be a better man today? No. And he's actually, like, in the grand scheme of all things, the person I would like to talk to the most, because I really would like to know, are you a better boss now? Are you safe to be in charge of women? Because you weren't before.
No.
You weren't. There were too many of us who had problems, and he not only, I don't want to say sided, because he didn't see things clearly. He didn't even for a second consider that the women had their own side of the story, I think is a better way to phrase that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. Because in a society where 1,200 people are sexually assaulted every day, you would think maybe it would just cross your mind that maybe I should be getting a full, well-rounded version of this story versus just a one-sided version of the story, and then pardoning so many times, and it led to so many other people getting hurt. Mm-hmm. And it left our store and people still got hurt. Mm-hmm. And that has been my thing all semester, where it's just like, and I think it's because we do a lot of workshops where we talk about things, and it's come up ever since that day where they talked about like a time you had a really bad experience in the workplace. And that was what I talked about. And it wasn't like what happened to me. It was the literal workplace part of it. And obviously I knew it was bad because I sued them, but it's like every time I say it out loud, I'm like, oh, that was actually worse than I thought. Like, no wonder they settled.
Sometimes you don't realize just how bad things are, or how out of the ordinary things are, or abnormal, until you're telling them later on. So, like, unrelated to, sexual assault or anything like that. Like, my childhood was fucked up. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes Mason and I will be talking about shit that happened in our childhood, and then, like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was really fucked up. But it's shit that you don't realize is fucked up until you're later an adult and you talk about it and you're like, oh. Especially if you're talking about it around other people.
Yes.
And then, like, you're talking and then you see the look on their face and you're like, oh.
Yes.
So no, it's totally a valid thing where the more you talk about it, the more fucked up things that you find about the situation. Things
every time.
Things that were like while you were in the situation, didn't necessarily seem normal, but didn't necessarily seem alarming. Or
my body knew I was in danger well before my brain could actually comprehend that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Your body, it knew you were in danger, but also it remembered things that you couldn't remember afterwards.
I just got chills when you said that. I hate that. I mean, I don't hate that. Because it's such a I think for me, when I share my story, I always go through this cycle of thoughts where it's like, there are genuinely so many people who are not going to understand this. Like, they're not going to understand. And I know statistically, it's actually more accurate for a sexual assault survivor to be assaulted and then to go about life and then realize, oh my God, I was actually assaulted. That is actually more common than somebody immediately being like, oh my God, I was sexually assaulted and going to the police. I know that. But for me, it's so, and I think it's just that whole year as a whole after, it's so much, my body told me what was wrong. It told me every step of the way, and it only got worse and worse and worse until I actually started to acknowledge the things that had happened to me and recognize them. But also there was so much of that where I didn't want it to be true. Like, so much of that mental mindfuck came from me literally just not wanting that to be a thing that happened to me and thinking I could willfully force my mind and body into moving on. And so much of that actually came from me being sexually assaulted as a kid. I quite literally thought, well, if that didn't affect me, this doesn't have to affect me. And enough that also shows how much being assaulted as a kid actually affected me.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's why I always feel like I need so much time to share my story. Like, I always feel like I need hours and hours, because it's like, you're not possibly going to comprehend the mental mind fuck that my brain went through for over a year unless you do, like, I feel like I can explain every piece. That's also like a really good and bad part, is that whole year after, I do actually remember a lot of the details, and I remember them because of how they made me feel and how mind fucked my brain was during that whole time. And I still feel like to this day, it's like in my brain, a whole bunch of cords got jumbled in that year, and it's like I literally am like taking a cord out and trying to put it back in place, and I'm testing it to see if it's in its right place or if it's not in its right place. And I know that that is what severe PTSD is like for me. Like, all the things that got jumbled that year, and then like re-examining them and being like, oh, was it actually like this, or did I perceive it like this at the time because of all the things my body and mind were experiencing? It feels insane to me. It feels insane when I think about that whole year. It feels like a fucking fever dream. It feels mostly not real, even though I know it was real. I have no doubts that it was real, but there's so many parts of it that don't feel real, because I just don't think I can fully comprehend how much danger I was always in and how much fear I was experiencing all the time, and how that literally led me to just shutting down physically as a person. And yeah, I mean, during all of this, my eating disorder was like, I don't know, it was the first thing that came up. I think it was like my first very obvious symptom, but it also started immediately after it happened, because somehow in all of the like, right, going back to the mental mindfuck that my brain was under, I convinced myself that that night wouldn't have happened if I wasn't fat. And I don't know if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. There was nothing about it that was logical. But I literally was like, bad things only happen to me because I'm fat. Like, don't even.
Well, shit like that doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it did at the time.
Right.
In my brain.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. I go to therapy every week, I promise. I really try so hard. But it's just like, yeah, it goes back to that, like, it's not going to make sense. This is also why I love being surrounded by survivors, specifically. Because, yeah, I know there's so many fucking men I can tell my story to, and they're going to be like, I don't get that. I actually think you're wrong. You're making this up. Yeah. Whereas there's never ever been not one time where I've shared my story to a survivor and they have not actually completely understood it, because it doesn't make sense until it makes sense. And it makes sense to the people who have experienced it, even though it's in their own way. And it's not the same as my story, but it's like the same as like when people tell me their stories and they're wild and they're crazy. And it's like that day, like Maureen was like, I don't care what you tell me. I'm going to believe you because this shit is unbelievable. So, shit, it's believable.
But generally when something like this happens, I think we do tend to try to find a reason, and we tend to try to blame ourselves, because I think I said it in another episode, like starting at like the age of 6, victims of sexual assault start to blame themselves, which, how sad is that? The age of 6, they start to try to take more responsibility for the things that happen to them than they put on their assaulter or abuser. And I think it might be, this is just me trying to connect dots because that's just who I am. So it could just be that you're trying to find a reason for what happened, and or internalizing it, because that's what we do, right? And you just pick something that you were already unhappy with about yourself.
I was. So I want to go into a little bit of clarity on this, just to give more insight to where my headspace was already at the time. But I had just a couple months before been cheated on. And like, I literally like was treated that way because I was fat. Like that was literally what was told to me. Like, because of the way my body is, that is why. And I think that was just like the final kicker for me, where it was like, I can finally hate this thing so fucking much that I can change it about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't help. Right after I got assaulted, I got strep. And I mean, that happened also right after. I literally think it happened like the same day I probably came down with it, but it was because I was so down. Mm-hmm. My body didn't have any. It's also one of those things, right, where like it doesn't make sense to somebody because of the state that my body was in. I should have known, because I was in so much pain and I had so many problems immediately after. But I just thought they were punishment. If you want the honest truth, that like it goes back to that blaming myself, like this is all my fault. Mm-hmm. This is all everything. But literally right after it happened, I got strep. And because I was so out of touch with my body, I had strep for weeks. Mm-hmm. And didn't even realize until it got so bad that like I couldn't swallow or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I had lost 20 pounds in like 2 weeks because I wasn't eating. And I wasn't eating because I had strep, but I didn't even know it because I was I was assaulted, and then it was like my brain left my body. It was like this immediate disconnect happened.
We were in survival mode.
Yeah, I mean, I went straight into it. And it's easy for me to see that now, but at the time, first of all, I couldn't even remember anything that happened. I was taking in pieces from other people. I was taking in pieces and pieces, and most of the pieces I was taking in was from the person who assaulted me. And it's just so strange to me how that became like one of my biggest vices right away. It's not strange because, like I said, I rationally can make sense of it. Like right when I went and I did my trauma narrative with my therapist months ago, I started from my first relationship. I didn't start from when I got assaulted, but I knew that led up to all of it. I was already in a state of self-doubt. I was already in a state where I felt uncomfortable with my body. And don't get me wrong, I literally think that's why I was the perfect victim, because he knew that. He knew that I wasn't happy with myself. I was an easy target. I was an easy person. Well, I wasn't, because I'm me and I bounced back and then I came back with fucking vengeance. But at the time, I look back at it so many ways. I was naive. I didn't recognize men as dangerous right away, which is why I won't ever make that mistake again. I was insecure about myself, which already makes somebody a great victim, because somebody who's insecure about themselves are going to blame themselves. Yeah. And I think it goes back to feeling like I had a target on the back, literally just because of my name. If you want the honest truth, I think I was a pawn in other people's game without ever wanting to be a pawn in other people's game. And I was just 20 years old and didn't know how shitty people could be. Like, I knew people could be shitty, but I didn't realize the people I was surrounded by could be so shitty. Mm-hmm. I thought I would recognize shitty people. I didn't realize shitty people manipulate you so easily. And it's even right. Oh man, I go back all the time. Me and you have talked about this, Tiff. But that the kind of person that my rapist was the kind of person who literally told you he was a manipulator.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
No, like he literally said it. That's why if anyone tells me they manipulate or anything like that, that is an immediate red flag, and I remove myself. I remove myself because I didn't do it before, and I refuse to get fucked over again.
I think that it is a quality in women that we try to fix men, fix people.
I wasn't even trying to fix them. I just thought we were friends. Not friends.
Not
not him, but yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. Yeah. I do know what you're saying. I just
this is how it was for me with him. This is how I thought, because, and I think I'm not sure exactly where the psychology of it comes from. Whether it's like the way stuff's presented in like the books we read, where you read all of these stories of like men who are just like complete pieces of shit, but they, with the help of a woman, they were able to change.
I do think books played a role in the way I romanticized certain people.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The way I loved,
but also like, he was a lot like my dad. Like, he was a drug addict, he was an alcoholic, he was an asshole, he was manipulative. And so there was part of that. But I think what it boils down to is we have this, a lot of women, I guess I won't say all women, have this like feeling of, maybe it's being needed or whatever, of trying to help men who are like this, people who are like this. And I know in my experience, when I have had a couple of, and it took me a while to learn this because I apparently have a really thick head.
Yeah. Me too.
But when a man tells you, I'm a piece of shit, I'm not good enough for you, or he tells you I'm manipulative, this is who I am, blah, 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 blah. Fucking listen. Okay? From experience, don't take that man who says I'm such a piece of shit, I'm not good enough for you. Don't say, oh my God, you are. No. He's not.
Boy.
He's not.
He's not.
Because he knows something that you don't know about himself. Mm-hmm. He understands himself more than you do. And even if he has the potential to be a good man, he is not in that moment, and it's not up to you to make him one. It is up to him to decide to be one. And I think that's where I got drawn into it, because all I saw for this whole thing was this poor guy who was struggling so much with all of these things, and his girlfriend was an asshole, and there was this whole situation that was just misconstrued because I only knew one part of it.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anything yet. Other than I hated him. I knew I hated him.
Right. And it led to a lot of things that could have just been avoided by multiple different things, but on my end, by just paying attention to what he said and how he acted. Because they will tell you, whether they straight up tell you this is the kind of person I am, or they give you signs, just like pay attention. And if a person tells you this is the kind of person I am, listen to them and walk away. Because
they tell you. They literally tell you.
Yeah.
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 It was just such I don't know. I'm gonna stick with the word fever dream, because while I know that whole time in my life was real and that it happened, and I can vividly remember a lot of it, it doesn't feel real. And I think it's it goes back to that danger. I was in so much actual danger, and I blows my mind, honestly, that I survived it. To this day, I talk about it all the time. Surviving that time period of my life is the bravest thing I've ever done. The fact that I'm not dead today is not a sign of strength. It's literally a miracle. If you want my honest opinion on it, if Lily did not come into my life, how she did, when she did, the randomness of it, I would be dead. People talk about the surge, right? That's like a thing. Like when you make peace with the fact that you're gonna die so you're okay again. That's where I was at when Lily came into my life. And I just think back to that week all the time, like mentally where I was. And it's one of those things. It's why I do think I have a very deep belief system, which is getting tried right now for the things in my personal life. But so many things just don't make sense. And that doesn't make sense to me. Nothing human made that happen. It just, right? A family fell through for unexpected financial purposes, and then the lady just reached out to me randomly because my mom had gotten a dog a few months ago, and it just so happened to be the day that I had asked for time off work. It just, right? It doesn't. I honestly think a dream of mine, I could totally see that portion of my life as a movie. The thrills, the highs, the lows, the tragedies, the all of it would make such a good cinematic piece. I swear to God, and there's every aspect to it. But yeah, that's why she's my fucking miracle baby. I don't know. I love her. I don't even know how we got all the way here.
And it's going back though to you feeling like parts of the time in your life just weren't real. You were but probably going through derealization and depersonalization and dissociation. Basically,
well, I was always dissociated.
Right, all of those things are
literally
kind of
all
related.
The time.
They're all there's a reason for all of them, right? When you see yourself outside of yourself and you're kind of walking like you're in a dream or whatever, it's because you can't handle what's going on. And sometimes that is what saves you. Because
it was.
Yeah, in that moment, if you were to feel all of the things that you were feeling and come to terms with all the things that you need to come to terms with, it wouldn't have ended the way, it would have ended, right?
I had to go to the state I did because I had to work with him after he assaulted me. So much of that, which every therapist I've been through, right, because they do so much training, has railed that into my head. Your brain didn't allow you to come to terms with it because you couldn't have. I could not have dealt with that under the circumstances. It goes back to that danger. I was in imminent danger. An immediate threat was right in front of me. So my brain chose fight, flight, freeze. Are those the options?
Fight, flight, fawn, freeze.
Fawn. So did I fall under fawn and freeze? I think I fell under fawn and freeze.
Fawn is where you kind of just go along with what's happening.
Fawn. Yeah, I went into fawn.
Well, fawn is in a situation where if you're being assaulted and they are giving you orders and telling you what to do. So freeze, you would just freeze. Flight, obviously, you would try to run away. Fight, you would try to fight. And fawn is where you just do what they tell you to do.
But I think in a way I fell into fawn. It goes back to that, he told me what happened that night and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I just accepted it. Yeah. Obviously, you came in during that time too. I completely distanced myself from it. I did everything I could to put as many blockades between me and that person as humanly possible under the circumstance. I hated him so much. I hated him before I even realized all that he had done to me. But it was because even before I realized all that, he had still broken my trust.
Yeah.
And I was at least able to recognize that at the time. But it's just, I think now, like I said, the hardest part of it is that like all the wires in my brain feel like they're still really twisted. Like it's been almost 5 years. Has it been 5 years? It happened right before my 21st birthday, like 3 weeks before my 21st birthday.
Yeah, because I think we worked together for about a year, and it's been 4 years since I moved down here almost. So it's been almost 5 years.
Yeah, I think this year will make it year 5. I always get confused. I'm like, is it 5 or 6? I don't. I just need to look at the numbers actually on the page, but I won't go back into those documents. I'm also scared of all those documents now. I just won't click in them. I have them all, but I won't click into them because I'm scared of them. It felt so empowering to do all that. Like when I first moved to Florida, because I did immediately, like, well, not immediately. At first I thought I was getting help from my prior employer. And then I realized they were playing me like a fucking violin. And then I was already a really angry person. So I was like, you just fucking fucked with the wrong fucking person. So after I realized that they were playing me like a fiddle, I decided I was going to sue them, which I knew it was an option, but it's not the option I wanted. I thought they were helping me. I thought they were going to assist me in getting this person behind bars. No, they were assisting themselves in covering everything up.
Oh yeah.
Which obviously makes sense, but at the time I was just clinging onto any strings, and they were, like I said, fiddling right along. So I jumped pretty soon after I moved into trying to get a lawyer, which is not an easy feat for what I was trying to get a lawyer for a case that does not have a lot of physical evidence and stuff like that.
Right.
And so with that, I got great advice from somebody, which was to garner all of the proof that I do have, make an as detailed timeline as you possibly can. Anything that you have, you need to condense it down and have it ready to give to a lawyer. So I did that, and it was a really, really good thing for me to do at the time. I think it did help with some of that wire crossing and shit like that, but it also, I was just in such a state where I was still so dissociated. Like when I made my Me Too video, which I made because I had given up hope of finding a lawyer, and I just wanted some sort of justice to come from this. I wanted my pain to be acknowledged. I wanted the company to do something. What I wanted was for them to do something. And I really wanted them to do something to help other people, but they still just chose to cover everything up.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it makes sense, but it's also, you could have done better. Regardless, like when I made that video, I remember like when I played it for my therapist, and he was like, how do you feel? And I'm like, that's such a great question. I don't know. And still to this day, a different therapist years later, all the time, my therapist will ask me like, how do you feel? I don't know. 3 months from now, I'll probably have a full fucking breakdown about it. But today,
I don't know.
Anything. I don't know. Those are the 3 words all the time. And that's how I know I'm still like dissociated. I'm still removed from it because like things hurt so bad. I can't feel them when they're hurting. Like and it sucks. Like the fact that I am jealous of people who can cry. Like my sister a couple weeks ago when everything happened in my family that happened. And she's sitting there and she's sobbing, and I'm hugging her and I'm like trying to talk to her, and she's like, you can cry too. Like I can hear that you want to cry. And I'm like, I want to. Like I really do. I can't right now. Like I literally just, I don't know what it is, but in that moment, and then it goes back to like, right then I'll have breakdowns. Like the last episode was me, like a bit of that emotion finally just starting to peek through, but that's not even like the full feeling of it. Like, that's just me boiling over because I can't get in touch with it. Like, I cannot get in touch with it. So it comes out at random times. Like, there was a day at work last week where I just, throughout the whole day, couldn't stop, like, tearing up. And so I'm, like, going to the bathroom, constantly wiping my eyes and stuff. But it's just, like, why can't I properly do this? I know the list of, like, things I've been through that are the reasons, but I still, maybe it's the, like, literal optimism in me that no matter what happens, still just somehow sometimes sparks up, but I still think I can get there. I just don't know how. I think having the right people around makes a big difference too. Like, Gigi will talk about how, like, John will, like, really recognize, like, when she's starting to shut down and stuff, and, like, pull it out of her. And I love that. Like, I literally love that for them, because I've never experienced, well, I don't want to say I've never, I think I've rarely experienced it in my life. And I think my dad is one of the few people in my life who, at times of great me pushing everything down and holding it in, has pushed me to not do that. But even then, that was a rarity, and that was, like, in childhood. Like, now I'm a grown-ass woman who cannot cry when they need to cry, but can break down at various times because it's all too much all the time, because I can't properly get in touch with my feelings. It's so annoying.
No, I know. Sorry.
You're okay. I just was talking for so long, and I'm, like, really at the end, I'm just pissed about it, because the only feeling I can feel all the time is angry.
No, I feel that 100%. Like, there are definitely times where, like, I know that, like, had I been not repressing so much, or not, like, that, I would have reacted like, so, like, when my aunt died a few years ago, like 2 years ago or something like that.
Was it,
like,
it was when we lived together, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
And so it was like, we weren't super close by that time, but when I was growing up, she was one of my favorite aunts. And I could not, like, feel any emotion, really. And it was a really turbulent time in my life, and I was taking, like, trying to get, I think I was still on medication at that point, so I was trying to get it right. But, and I recognized, right, like I don't feel anything, but I feel like I should feel something. And, like, I couldn't, I was sad. But yeah, so, like, I've been there. Like, you get to the point where you're tamping everything down, and then, like, it's hard to let it go when you want to, or need to, or, like, you know, the occasion calls for it.
Yeah.
So,
and, like, eventually it just leads to, like, explosions. And there's, I mean, knock on wood, there's nothing in my life that I feel like I'm exploding on, but I also don't feel like, right, like, at least now, like, all the factors that have played into this, like, existential crisis I really found myself in, it's not, I'm angry at the world. I'm not angry at a specific person. I'm not, there's no person to, well, there are things I could be angry at and stuff, but really, in the grand scheme of it, for me, I view it more as a worldly matter, a worldly, just the cruelty of the world, and how if people weren't so cruel, or if people weren't so impoverished, if people really just got the help that they need and resources were actually available, and if money was not the center of everything, so many things would not be like this. And then it feels like I'm fighting an endless battle. I'm fighting a battle I can never possibly win. I'm fighting a battle that I can never do anything about. And I don't know if I even believe that any of those things are true. I don't. It goes back to my therapist just telling me to find hope. Find the things that make you feel hopeful. And I don't know what they are all the time. I mean, like, literally just talking about Lily a little bit ago, that made me feel hopeful, because that was the biggest, I mean, I don't want to say the biggest blessing, because don't want people to get misconstrued because I have a child and he's quite literally the
Right.
greatest thing I've ever done before.
Yeah.
But Chance didn't save my life. Lily saved my life. Her existence coming into my life saved me. Chance put me on the right path.
Right.
I mean, like, literally, like, me in school, me doing all these things now would have never come into fruition if I hadn't gotten pregnant, if I hadn't come back home, if I hadn't. He made me think in the way of what I want for my future and what I want for him in the future in a way that, I mean, my therapist does it all the time, because while I should be able to live for myself and do these things for myself, she knows me well enough to know that I don't have the gumption to do that. I still have too much self-hatred. I have too much insecurity. But I can do it for Chance, right? Like this last week with me having a breakdown and me being in this like just not good headspace lately, she just kept saying, find a safe place for Chance. Not in like, right, we have a physical safe place. That's not what she means. But she means like, find a place that feels safe for him, because in turn that's going to feel safe for me. But she I think tries to use that to my advantage, because I lack that. What I should be able to give myself, I can't necessarily always give it, because I am still always trying to, right? It goes back to those wires. Those wires are so twisted still when it comes to my perception of self. Like, even if I, like, that's my fear too, is even if I accomplish all the goals I have set out and the ways I think they can help so many people, am I ever going to feel better about myself? Not, those things won't make me feel better, right? I recognize that enough to know that it goes back to those wires in my brain. I can do a million great things. I do great things every day. I treat people with kindness every day, but I don't know how to change those wires. I'm working on it, but I don't know. I don't know, like, what's going to make me look in the mirror and actually see a person of value versus a person who's been run through. Like, I don't know how to, like,
me neither.
So sorry if you came here looking for hope. We're finding it,
but we can commiserate.
We'll talk about it.
Talk about it. Maybe together we can find answers. Not the two of us, but maybe one of you.
Yeah, honestly, we're looking for answers. Comment below. How do I learn to love myself? Literally. And not like, go take a bath, go do whatever. Like, how do I actually change the wiring of my brain? Scientist. I'm psychologist.
Tutorial, okay? If you have a link to a video, that'd be great. YouTube
is great. I follow instructions well.
Me too. Kind of.
My aunt was at me, not at you. I think a big part of it for me, which we are headed in that direction, Tiff, like we keep talking about it, I think a social media break is so crucial.
Yeah.
The never-ending comparison to other people's lives are not good for us. The never-ending, because me and you care about the world the way in which we do, we intake too much information in a way that we as humans have never possibly been able to do before.
Yeah.
So I think just taking that step back is actually a huge step for us.
Yeah.
I really do think I need to take that disconnect, and I need to just, right, going back to the last episode again, lots of physical grounding. I'm just going to keep physically grounding myself, because my body, mind, soul, I've spoken about it so much because I know that they're miscombobulated, and my only goal right now, well, I have a lot of goals, but for like myself, not the things I want to reach, not the like degrees I want to get, but like me internally. I want to be able to connect those things. When something makes me want to cry, I want to be able to cry. When something makes me happy, I want to feel happy in the moment. I don't know how to escape my head. This has been the thing I've been talking about, but I want to learn because I do think all things are teachable. I just think we didn't get a great foundation on it, and then you add trauma on top of it. These are things I really want to figure out. And I guess if you're listening and you're still listening, you quite literally are on this journey with me. I mean, you've been on this journey with us, but I guess I'll try to save this in my files somewhere. But I want Natalie a year from now to come back and reflect on this moment where I'm talking about connecting those three things. And I really want her input on it because I do think our future selves hold a lot of value. I used to live thinking I didn't have a future self. And in that time, the way I destroyed so many things and I created so many bad habits, and it's because I hated myself so much. And now, going back to that rewiring, I feel like since then, I've been on a journey of breaking those habits, breaking those things. But it is like, I think often back to that girl who I still have yet to recognize as me when I talk about in the present. And I feel so sorry for her that she hated herself so much. And then I feel so angry that I have to do so much work to fix the things that she fucked up, even though I know everything she was going through. And I hold so much empathy for it. I struggle with the forgiveness aspect because I still struggle to this day because of the actions she took, but also can recognize that she took the actions she took because of things that were so far out of her control. And I was just grappling for some sense of security. I am done smoking again. I haven't had a pack in I don't know how long, so I put those back down. And that was like a little win for me because I had been going so strong for months, and then I picked up a pack, and then I picked up another pack, and then I finally just stopped buying anymore. And it's probably been a week at least, I think. And I'm not really like fiending for it, but also know that when hard times come up, when I'm faced with really, really challenging shit, that's the first thing I'm gonna want every time. Whenever I can feel my stress exceeding my maximum threshold, that's I guess I just have to recognize that for the rest of my life, that is going to be the first thing I want. And that's just how our brains are wired, unfortunately. It's not about changing the wiring all the time, I suppose. It's about creating an environment that works with the wiring. That's what I mean about like the self-hatred. It goes so deep for no good reason because it's therapy, right? Is like about learning how to work with who you are now, not about getting the past version back of you. But I really miss her. Like I really miss the girl who didn't struggle this hard, and she struggled too. Like I want to be very clear that girl struggled, but it was not like it is now. And just everything I do takes so much more effort than it ever used to, and it makes me so sad. I don't know. It just makes me really sad.
100%.
Yeah. I guess we should probably wrap up this episode.
Probably.
I feel like I have talked way more than I thought I was going to about, like, I don't know, my life. Which is, like, the point of it, because I'm just talking about the things that traumatized me.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to feel vulnerable, so...
Not a good time to cut it off.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think we should probably do a grounding exercise today. I do think that would be good for us. I can look one up on my phone. We can do I think a breathing one would probably be good.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. It was me. So I found this thing. I'm just gonna read it. I don't know how it will go. I literally just discovered it, but it's a script, so I'm just gonna read the script. Okay. So grounding exercise in 3, 2, 1. Cue the nature noises. Begin by finding a comfortable position. Sit or lie in a space where you feel safe and undisturbed. Gently close your eyes and take a deep breath in and slowly release it out. Allow yourself to settle into this moment, feeling the support beneath you. As you continue to breathe deeply and evenly, bring your attention to the goal of this practice, to cultivate a non-judgmental awareness towards your thoughts and feelings. Recognize that right now, there's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. You are here to observe and be present with your inner experience. Notice the points of contact between your body and the surface beneath you. Feel the weight of your body being supported. With each breath, allow yourself to feel more grounded, more connected to the present. Now turn your awareness to any thoughts or feelings that arise. Perhaps they're related to your day, to your past, or to your future. Observe them as if they are leaving, floating on a stream, coming into view, and then drifting away. There is no need to engage with them or judge them. Simply acknowledge their presence. If you find that certain thoughts are persistent, imagine them as clouds in the sky. Observe their shape, their movement, and then let them pass, focusing back on the blue sky of your inner calmness. Pay attention to any emotions that surface. You might feel happiness, sadness, or maybe nothing at all. This is your space to notice and accept your reactions without criticism. Each feeling is a guest visiting for a moment and then moving on. If your mind wanders, that's okay. It's the nature of the mind to think. Gently, with kindness towards yourself, guide your attention back to your breath. Feel the rise and the fall of your chest, the air moving in and out of your lungs, the subtle movements of your body as you breathe. As we come to close of this meditation, take a few more deep, intentional breaths. With each inhale, gather a sense of peace. With each exhale, release anything that does not serve you. Remember, this sense of grounding and non-judgmental awareness is a tool that is always available to you. When you are ready, gently wiggle your fingers and toes, bring some movement back into your body. Take your time, there's no rush, and when you feel ready, slowly open your eyes and return to your day with a newfound awareness and acceptance. I like when Gigi does that. So thanks for joining us for episode 9. Sorry for nothing. Actually, I'm not sorry, but you're welcome for getting to know more about me, I suppose. We will be back hopefully next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm trying to get us at the same time, too.
1, 2, 3.